Well, here we are at the end of November, very nearly, and near the end of the second lockdown of 2020. It's been a really odd year, and the last time I did a vid, the grass was looking pretty awful, covered in leaves. Not so bad, although the field maple is still losing leaves, and similarly these beech trees and they won't really be finished until about Christmas time. The hedging is continuing. There's a pile of twigs waiting to be disposed of, and I'll be picking up those leaves by hand and probably putting them on the bonfire when I light it. So last time I did a vid on the lawn tractor, I said when I'd given it a good thorough going over, I would do a short video on it, because this year is its 10th birthday, and although this is for my record really, other people that are looking into buying lawn tractors might just be slightly interested in this one, because it has been pretty good. It's a Husqvarna. They always made really good motorcycles, and really I only bought this one because it was at the local lawnmower centre, which has now closed incidentally, and it was a 48-inch job, twin blades, with 4 blades either side. Cheap ones you get 2 blades either side, and they tend to go out of balance, and they don't cut so well, and I like to cut fairly low because it keeps the weeds down. This lawn here, which is about 3/4 of an acre, the bottom end of it was split between an old orchard once and a small paddock. So I've been trying to improve the grass over the years, mostly by close cutting, which gets rid of quite a few of the weeds. So I started off here with a cheap Italian single deck champion mower, which was pretty much worn out when I came here, and I needed something a bit bigger and a bit better. So I bought this one, and 10 years ago this was how much was it? About 3,300, which isn't that bad. I think Hondas were more expensive, but they just didn't have any in the shop, and this one looked pretty good to me, so I took a chance on it, and it's been quite good over the years. It always starts, still got the same battery, still got the same tyres. I've had to replace the deck drive belts twice. That was my own fault really, because I allowed the blade speeds to drop, and you can actually hear the blade speeds dropping, and instead of shutting off the drive to the belts, to the deck, I left it running, and that caused the belts to overheat, and once you can smell rubber, it means that the belts will break, no question. It's happened twice. I hope it won't happen again. I've got 2 in spare, but they are expensive, about 70 quid a kick. It's 2 drive belts for this, one for the deck, which is the double-sided one, the expensive one, and then a straightforward V-belt drive from the hydraulic gearbox to the rear wheels, which have a differential. No diff lock though. I could do with a diff lock on this on some of these slopes. You know, once you lose traction on both wheels, it can be a bit of a pain. And I just put my gloved hands on one of the wheels too, the one that's not that's turning, to try and get the differential to drive the other wheel, and that usually works. But it could do with a diff lock, but then of course that's more expensive. So this one's had its annual service and a bit of a repaint here and there where it's been bashed up. They do tend to get a bit bashed, or at least mine does. I try and keep it in good condition. Every time I change the belt or take the deck off, which isn't too difficult because you just pull some pins out and the deck will pull out from the side. Every time I take the deck off, I clean it underneath and paint it, because one of the problems with the cheaper tractors is that these sections are always made of pressed mild steel, and they rust if you don't look after them, and it's a problem underneath. So every time I use it, I get a blunt screwdriver and get the mud out of it, normally of half a bucket each time. There is a device, a little water device that's supposed to clean it. You can see it there. I've put a hose lock on it, and you put your hose on there, run the blades, and it's supposed to clean it. It does up to a point, but it won't take the mud out. So as I say, I prop it up on either side and just clean it with a blunt screwdriver to get the mud out every time I use it. This one has got a really good engine. I have to lift the front, and there it is. It's a Kawasaki V-twin overhead valve, as you can see, not a side valve, which makes it reasonably economical. When I cut all the grass here, there's a fair bit. I reckon I use probably 3/4 of a gallon. You know, it takes a few hours to cut this lot. I've just done an oil change and a new filter. Easy to get to the filter. I use a pattern filter because if you buy the Kawasaki ones, they are really expensive. And as I change these change them every year, or sometimes every 2, a pattern one's okay. One of the things I don't like is the oil drain, which is here, and the whole thing is plastic, which means that has to be undone, and it's a bit weak really. So I use a big flat blade screwdriver rather than try and put a spanner on it, because it just wouldn't work. And I put a pipe on the output side down into a bowl, and it keeps it pretty clean. And as you can see, it's a really nice unit, obviously air cooled. And this one, as I say, is 10 years old and it's not looking bad. There's no leaking. The silencer comes out the front. It's in good condition. Never had a carburation problem. Air filter at the front, easy to remove. And I've never replaced that. It doesn't get dusty here. So just a tap on the ground normally gets it nice and clean. That's the brake mechanism, and I don't know how much this was. Probably 1.5 gallons. It's filled up for the everything's finished now. I'm not using this again until next spring. So there it is. It's got fresh oil, nice filter. I've been over it, cleaning it, painting any rusty bits, checking the ram at the back. It's It's an electric actuated grasshopper. Just had to switch the ignition on to make it work. As you can see, it's going up nice and smoothly. The snag is the ram itself, the actuating part, should be in stainless steel, but of course it isn't. It's just a sort of bit of chrome steel, and it did require me to take the whole thing apart and unblock it and get all the rubbish out of it, because it's right in the stream of the grass. So every year I clean off the ram and grease it, and since then, touch wood, I've had no problems. There's a hopper, I don't know if the camera can see it down here. You can remove that hopper with 2 springs, but it's a pain to do, and I use this trusty bit of wood to unblock the hopper, because I need to do that quite often because I like close mowing and it does tend to block the chute. So if the weather's a bit on the damp side, I usually have to unblock the hopper every time I empty this, but I'm so used to it, it's not a problem. So I'll push that down again. The paintwork is starting to show signs of its age. There's bubbling coming here and there. Obviously you can't be that careful, and I do knock into fences and bits of wood and bushes and things occasionally. So I put these 2 bumpers on the back. This is the side that usually gets bashed, so I put a big trailer bumper on there and a smaller one on the other side. It's got a hydraulic motor, and the shift lever is here. Because it's hydraulic drive, it's just forward for forward, back for reverse. The cheaper ones will have a gearbox. Hydraulic systems are by far the best for this kind of operation. It's just so simple to just move the lever backwards and forwards. It's a bit like the drive system on a boat. I did have to replace the shift lever spring this time. I was using it, and all of a sudden this went very floppy, and there's a little spring at the base which broke, and thankfully I managed to just buy it for a few quid from a place called Ransom Spares, and they're excellent. They carry spares for, well, all sorts of tractors, and I had no problem at all. I just asked for the spring on their website and received it in a few days, and I fitted it there a couple of days ago. Easy enough to do. So it's looking pretty good, I think. The belt tips, sorry, not the belt, the seat. There's a lever here that you can disengage the drive if you want to push it, although it's not that easy to push. Just pull that up and you disengage the drive. It's very sloppy steering, as you might expect. It's just a basic rack and pinion down in under the tank there, which I do grease. Something I did forget to do, there are two grease points that are very easy to see where the kingpins are. You know, it's a very basic system. I mean, there's no ball joints or anything. I just spray the whole joint mechanism with a bit of chain spray. Similarly, these jockey wheels, I use chain spray on those. And I discovered that if you tilt that rear wheel, so it's facing out, it won't collect the grass. What I used to find was that on wettish days the grass would gather on that wheel,